Food is more than just what's on our plate. It's the places where it's grown, it's the people who grow it, and so much more. Join me, Janice Person, your host, on Grounded by the Farm every other week as we talk about the foods we love. For the next few weeks, we're going to be remixing and updating some of our favorite episodes about holiday foods. We did a series on them in 2020. And we thought it was time for an update. So we're starting with pumpkins and our friend Shannon Latham, who has Enchanted Acres, a pumpkin patch in Sheffield, Iowa. You guys may remember the episode. You may not have heard it yet. She gives us so many great tips on enjoying a pumpkin patch and on getting the most out of pumpkin when it comes to foods on the table. Just listening back to it, I so want pumpkin muffins right now. It's crazy. Anyway, we're going to remix a little bit of this episode and then we're going to update it at the end. So hope you enjoy and hope you'll be back in a couple of weeks. Hey everybody, this is Janice and we're talking about pumpkins, which is obviously the first holiday thought I have every fall. Like, what would fall be without pumpkins? So we're talking to Shannon Latham, and Shannon is up in Iowa, and I can't wait to hear what all's been going on up there. Shannon, how's your fall going?
It has been a beautiful fall so far in North Iowa, which, Janice, I always get a kick out of following you on social media and talking about how cold it gets. I'm always hopeful we can finish the pumpkin season without a snow. Snow in the pumpkin patch is not my friend, but it's going great. The leaves are starting to turn. We've had the perfect hoodie apple cider weather so far,
nice.
So let's hope that continues.
Yeah. It's horrible to go to a pumpkin patch and be hot and sweaty, I think. It's like football games. You want to be a little bit chilly, but you don't want to be cold, right?
Right. So there is nothing like the super hot 85-degree weather to kill business at a pumpkin patch. You're absolutely right. Another one is drizzle. No one wants to go out and pick pumpkins in a drizzle. And if we could only order like 65-degree and sunshine with no wind, that's what I would put on tap for every weekend of October.
I love it. So we're talking right at the changeover from September to October. This will go up in about 2 weeks. Can you tell me, when is your busy season? Was I crazy for scheduling you as the 1st of October hit?
No, that's perfect. And I don't know if you know this, but October is National Pumpkin Month. So as a foodie, I'm all about celebrating food holidays early and often. So October is National Pumpkin Month, and we typically open mid-September. So in Iowa, the Iowa State game weekend is like our Super Bowl. And when I was new to the pumpkin patch business, I opened that weekend. And it was a lonely place to be. It was a very lonely place because everybody in Iowa is either watching the game, hosting a watch party, or going to the game. So I have learned, and I typically open the week following, which is usually the 3rd Saturday of September.
I love it. Out of all the farmers I've talked to, you're probably one of the few that a lot of people think, hey, pumpkin farm, I've done that, right? So a lot of people have gone out and picked pumpkins or taken photos on a pumpkin farm, and your farm is one of those farms for people in northern Iowa, right?
Right. In fact, when you talk about that, and we all kind of joke about what's Pinterest inspired, one of my favorite photo opportunities was when a young couple came out. She showed me a picture that was Pinterest inspired or Instagram inspired. I'm not sure which at the time, but it was this couple kissing in the pumpkin patch. And she's like, would you take this for me? So yes, it is that place. And I just like having cute places, whether you're a young couple in love or you're a family, and you make it an annual tradition. So I really love seeing that where people come and bring their kids back year after year. We have a photo board that says how tall this fall, and it allows them to continue to measure. And it's just really fun to see those families come back time and again. But I think that might be one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think, oh, pumpkin patch, that's just for people with toddlers. But we really try to provide activities. I'm a big believer in experiences and creating experiences. I believe experiences create memories.
Right.
And so we offer activities every weekend with different ages in mind. So Every weekend we offer a special pumpkin decorating workshop. It might be buttons and bows. It might be
Oh,
decorating pumpkins with succulents to make a centerpiece for your Thanksgiving table. But I try to think of things that people might not do at home. So I
right.
think people traditionally think of carving pumpkins,
Yep.
but they don't maybe think about other things they could do. One weekend this fall we'll be using furniture tacks to decorate pumpkins. And then every weekend we allow people to paint pumpkins and they can glitter them up because with the
I was
farm
going
name
to
like
ask
Enchanted
about glitter
Acres. Yes,
because that's one of those things I would not do at home, but I would love the glitter
exactly.
pumpkin to stay out on the front porch, never come in the house.
Right. So I like to say leave the mess with us and take home your masterpiece. And so the name of our area where we do all of the pumpkin workshops is called Geppetto's Workshop because I'm a big Disney fan. And
Obviously.
I just thought that was a good fit. It's like leave the mess. And also we only charge $5. That includes your pumpkin, your paint, your glitter. If you went to Hobby Lobby or Walmart and you wanted to buy different colors of paint as well as the pumpkin, you couldn't do it for $5. So I think it's just affordable. I was going to say affordable family fun, but really affordable fun for the whole family. It's fun to see grown mother daughters come. Last weekend, I had a mother, daughter, and daughter-in-law come out,
Yeah.
and they did succulents. It's also been a great area or a great activity, I should say, for bridal showers. So like the bridal party, I come out and decorate pumpkins. So yeah, I really like to think that we appeal to a broad audience.
I would tell you, our office over the years, probably 20 years ago, I started doing pumpkin carving contest or pumpkin decoration contest. And it's amazing how competitive people can get in that if it's a
Yes, it is.
contest.
Yeah, exactly. Contest is the key word. People, especially, I worked in an advertising agency in West Des Moines, and we did the same thing. And those graphic designers, there was no way I could compete with them on the pumpkin carving. So I had to enter the pumpkin baking contest. And the little 4-H'er in me is proud to say I won the pumpkin baking contest one year.
Oh, that's funny. I actually can claim ownership of a ribbon from the pumpkin decoration contest because I used inside humor, right? Like at an office, we all have those insider jokes. And to create a pumpkin that
Sure.
illustrated one of those brought me the big prize one year. So, quite proud of that.
Well, you
I
should be.
exactly. So, I was an accidental pumpkin grower one year. I don't know how many people have
So
ended
how
up
did
in
that
that.
happen?
Right? My front porch, when I bought a new house, the people had young kids. And I don't know if somebody accidentally broke the pumpkin into the nice flower bed or if somebody just never dealt with it and ultimately just kicked it there to die. But the first year I lived there in the fall, I had this weird vine come up. And and I can't help my curiosity. I had to let it go, right? So from the spring, and then I started seeing the flowers, and I'm like, ugh, squash or pumpkin. One of those. What do you think people should know if they try and grow a pumpkin? Probably not the
It
best way
takes
to
a
do it.
lot of space. It takes a lot of space, which I'm sure you found out, right? Those
Those leaves
vines
got
can go
big.
for yes, the leaves get big and the vines can go for feet.
Yes.
So when we plant our pumpkins, we plant them anywhere from 8 to 14 feet apart. And there's a couple of reasons we do that.
Wow.
We want them to vine out, but we also, raising pumpkins in large quantities like we do is really hands-on. It takes a lot of labor. And so we do it every so often. We make it a little bit wider so we can get through with the tractor and cultivator.
Yeah. So tell me, I obviously did not have that kind of space. It took over part of my front yard as well as the flower bed. And
Yes.
it was not your typical orange pumpkin. So do you guys grow just traditional orange pumpkins, or there seems to be a lot of different things going on in the pumpkin world?
Yeah, I think you would be amazed if you saw a pumpkin grower's catalog. It's literally like, and I know you, Janice, would be familiar with a seed catalog. Not everybody who's listening probably is, but what would that be? Half inch thick, maybe? And it's all different pumpkin varieties. And I'm like a kid in a candy store when I opened that book because this year what was new was yellow pumpkins. So
Oh,
I am totally fascinated by pumpkin breeders because who thinks of this stuff like a yellow pumpkin? I plant more than 20 varieties, but it's honestly a struggle to keep it down to 20 varieties
I would
because
say if
they're
you've got
so
a
cool.
half-inch thick book of different seed varieties, even if it's just one per page, that's a lot of pages. I would really have
It is
trouble.
a lot of pages. I mean, you would be amazed by the number of different colors and so many different uses. So, one of the pumpkins that I grow is called the peanut pumpkin. For those who know French, I can't even pronounce it, but you would know it by a French name. And it looks like little peanuts are growing on there. So I just harvested some of those. Some of them are called speckled hound. Oh, that's the other thing. The marketer in me loves the name of these different pumpkins and squashes. So the speckled hound is orange and green together, and it's
Oh
speckled.
yeah.
Then there's one year I bought some just because it was called Fairy Tale, and I really thought, Enchanted Acres should offer the fairy tale. It's probably no surprise to you that our signature pumpkin is called the Cinderella. And it's like if you watch the Disney movie, it looks just like a Cinderella coach. It's flat, and they are awesome for stacking. And so I usually put a Cinderella pumpkin on the bottom. There's the Gerardelle, and it's kind of a greenish blue color, and it's a
Ooh.
little bit thicker. It's so pretty, and that's the other thing I love about the pumpkin patch is you get visitors from everywhere. And I had a lady who was from Australia, and she's like, "Oh, you have the squash," which I think it's actually, I don't know if it is a winter squash or if it's a pumpkin, but it's very popular apparently in Australia. And this is going to be my ninth season, and I have yet to eat one. Every year I think I'm going to fix one of these, and every year, I don't know, I guess I get busy and forget to do it. But um, they are really good eating. Squash is related to the pumpkin, so
Yeah.
that's no big surprise. And then where I live, we have a very big Latino population, and so I'll have people stop by because they love to eat pumpkin there too. So there's just, yeah, every kind of squash and pumpkin really has a use, whether it's decorating. Some are even better for painting than
Yeah.
others, we've learned over the years.
How do you help the people who are coming to visit you figure those kind of things out, right? Because if you come to the
Sure.
pumpkin patch, I typically just look for one that has the shape I like, but then if I
Sure.
wanted to make a pie, maybe not the best one to have.
Exactly. So there are definitely pie pumpkins. At our place, they're called Baby Pam or Sweet Sugars. So they make a better pie because they have, I suppose, a higher sugar content.
Yeah.
And they're smaller. So we put signs. We offer a you pick pumpkin patch, but not everyone wants to get dirty and not everyone wants to climb through the vines because I'm sure you learned in your accidental pumpkin patch that pumpkin vines are prickly. And if you
Yeah.
go out into the
They're
field,
itchy.
yeah, you want to make sure, exactly. You want to make sure you're dressed for it. So I would recommend a long sleeve shirt and boots, at
Long
least clothes you
pants.
don't mind getting dirty. Long pants, exactly. So if you're going to wear tennis shoes, make sure they're ones that, you're okay with throwing them in the washing machine. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes people dress so cute to come to the pumpkin patch, or they dress their kids so cute, and then they're like, oh, but don't get dirty. Well, I'm just a big believer you're on a farm. Like half of that, especially if you're like a little kid, is getting dirty. That's half the fun. Anyway, we provide that experience for those who think getting down and dirty is fun or picking their own, just like you would go out to
Yeah.
a Christmas tree farm and pick out a tree. We
You
offer
can take
that, but for
nice
those
pictures first before you get really dirty.
exactly, exactly, and then change your shoes like Mr. Rogers. We provide pallets, so if you want to have the pumpkin picking experience without all the dirt, we've already
Right?
picked them, washed them, and placed them on a pallet. And then to help people choose, I make signs. I've had them designed so that we can use them year after year, but it lists the name of the pumpkin and talks about what its best uses are, and then it
Oh,
gives them a
nice.
picture. So that's how we try to do it.
I mean, who would have thought when we were kids, right? It was such a simple world. You had either a
All
tall
you had was
pumpkin
an orange
or a
pumpkin.
perfectly round pumpkin, right? Like it was tall or it
Right,
was round. And that was it.
right.
How
And now
big it
there's
was is the only
exactly.
question. So,
Absolutely. I didn't know there was anything other than a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin when I was a kid.
right, right. So that traditional jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, do you guys have those, I assume, as well?
Yes, absolutely. But they come in all different sizes too. I mean, I've grown some that are big white pumpkins and they're called polar bears and they get just huge. I also have Atlantic giants, which are big orange pumpkins. In fact, one this year we had to use the forks of the tractor to move it. I'm not sure who's going to take that home with them because it's so big, but it's been kind of fun. And when you were talking about accidental pumpkins, some of our biggest pumpkins actually grow in our compost pile. And I think it's just because it's so full of nutrients in that pile.
Yeah.
And then it's also kind of shady. So it probably helps keep a little bit more moisture over there as well. But it's kind of fun to see what just grows naturally over by that compost pile.
Well,
we
that
do
leads
not
me...
open that part up to the public, though. I don't think anyone would want to pick from there.
Playing in the compost pile doesn't sound as fun as it, digging worms is one thing, but in the compost pile is something else. That's so funny. So when you guys look at pumpkins, is one of the big difference in what would be considered a carving pumpkin sort of the texture or the width of the rind? Like, what's different between carving pumpkins and painting pumpkins?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the skin. You're right. Carving pumpkins are a little bit thicker. Some of the pumpkins, though, are too thick, so they don't make a good carving pumpkin.
Right.
And some of them it's just basically, I think, size and preference anymore. I would have never thought about carving a white pumpkin, but my mom did. Yeah, and it was so cute. And then if you're going for some designs, you don't even have to paint the pumpkin because you could just use the color of pumpkin. We have some that are called knuckleheads. And they make the perfect like witch face because they have all these, it almost looks like little warts growing all over them.
Oh, kind of bubbling up. It looks
bumpy.
Like probably
exactly.
a disease or something, but that's inherent in that time. Yeah.
In fact, the first year I grew knuckleheads, my brother was out looking at my pumpkin patch and I wasn't there. And he said, "What's wrong with your pumpkins?" And I said, "Which ones?" And he sent me a picture and I said, "Oh, that's a knucklehead." And he's like, "That's not nice to call me names." I'm like, "No, that's the kind, that's the variety." So I love it. They really, it's funny to say, but pumpkins have a lot of character. Like each variety kind of has its own personality, if you will. Just like that is a little bit bumpy. We have one called Orange Ruffy Thing. We have a really popular gourd variety called the Lunch Lady. So sometimes people see that and they buy it just because the name is funny.
Yeah, that's funny. For those people who are either carving it or using it for some kind of eating extravaganza, baking or whatever. Mm-hmm. What do you suggest they do with the seeds? Do you have like ways to use the seeds that are yummy or useful?
My family loves roasted pumpkin seeds. My son's favorite is with cinnamon and sugar, but then I did a taste test. Yeah, I did a taste test a couple of years ago at the pumpkin patch, and I did some with Italian seasoning, some that had a little bit more of a Mexican flair, and then the cinnamon. And also we just like butter and salt on some of them too. So I think, why not kind of like spice up your salads? I don't know if spice it up is the right word. I guess it depends on what you put on there, but why not add some pumpkin seeds to a salad? Give it a little bit different flavor instead of the same old. Also, you could put it on the tops of soups. Yeah. Which this time of year is great soup weather. So
how do you roast them?
My go-to is Taste of Home, by the way. If anybody, which probably dates me a little bit, but Taste of Home is online. And to me, all those recipes are like what my mom and my grandma would make. So they're just like comfort foods. So that's where I usually go to grab a recipe. And what I do is I go ahead and scoop out the insides of the pumpkin. By the way, if you get a pie pumpkin, they'll have way more seeds in them and they'll be smaller. So you could go ahead, buy a pie pumpkin, use the seeds for your salad, soup, or just plain as a snack to eat them by themselves. And then you could actually turn that pie pumpkin into pie. I see that you also share on your Facebook page some recipes. I could share with you my favorite recipe if you want to buy a pie pumpkin and turn it into pudding.
Yeah.
Yes. So pumpkin pudding tastes like pumpkin pie, but you don't have to make the crust. So like, how awesome is that? So I'll send that your way if you want to share that. And
That's great.
And it's really simple. Like I followed the Pioneer Woman's recipe for making your own pumpkin. puree. It's really not hard. And
Yeah.
it's an investment in time, but it's really not that hard. And then, yeah, so then that way you can have the seeds and you can use the fruit. In fact, that's one of the things that I make sure I do a lot of field trips usually. I love field trips because kids are so curious. They ask a lot of questions. But the one thing I want them to go home remembering is that pumpkin is a fruit and we can eat it. So usually we'll make pumpkin pie in a bag for them. And then I just do little single servings, little cups that put graham crackers in the bottom. Then we squeeze some of that pumpkin pie filling into it. And I always love getting the thank you notes from little kids. And my favorite one was, "You are such a good cook. Will you be my friend?" I just love it. Because first of all, like pumpkin pie in a bag is the easiest thing you'll ever make. And second of all, it requires no cooking. So win-win.
It sounds like the perfect setup. Well, so you say pumpkin pie requires no cooking. It's a really easy thing. You make it a
Well,
lot?
pumpkin pie in a bag. Pumpkin pie
Okay.
in a bag, I should say. And that's what we do on our field trips. And so really we just mix it in a Ziploc bag. It's pumpkin pie filling out of a can. It's instant pudding. It's milk and some pumpkin pie spice. And you
Okay.
squish it all together in the Ziploc bag, and it's ready to eat in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
So
What's one of your favorite ways of putting pumpkin on the table, like as a food product?
pumpkin bread is definitely one of my family's favorites. Pumpkin muffins. So I'm newly an empty nester, so it's very strange for me. I used to be called like the muffin lady because I would make muffins all the time. And so last year during my kids' senior year, again, I change out my recipes like some people change out their wardrobe. I definitely have a pumpkin muffin season, and I've shared that recipe several times on several different blogs. Pumpkin muffins are one of my kids' favorites,
I'll have to
and
get
we'll
the
do
link
them.
for the show
Yeah,
notes. Yeah.
definitely. And I like pumpkin muffins even as a side dish. So if we're going to do a bowl of chili, some people might put that with cornbread. I'm going to serve it with pumpkin muffins. And then I've also made pumpkin chili. And at Enchanted Acres, we have a little restaurant called the Marketplace Cafe, and we'll serve pumpkin chili there sometimes. You really don't taste it. I think it really just kind of gets absorbed by the other flavors of the chili. But I figure, when at the pumpkin patch, right? Why not give it a try? So we've done that.
What do
And
what
then,
do
yeah,
pumpkins kind of add nutritionally? What's there that we should
so they
be?
are high in vitamin A and beta carotene for sure,
Oh,
just like a
good.
carrot would. Uh-huh.
Good for your
And
eyesight.
they are definitely good for your eyesight. So sometimes we'll feed some of the pumpkins that we aren't able to sell. We'll feed them to our goats or we'll feed them to our chickens, and they eat everything but the shell. They love to eat the little seeds. They love to eat the filling.
When you think about pumpkins, a lot of us go to sweet things like the pies and things. Are there more savory pumpkin recipes?
Yes, and I have a recipe actually so there was a gourmet food club in the area that came and bought pie pumpkins, and then they shared a recipe for me. And it is a savory recipe. So
I'll have to get that.
yeah.
I think that's what's really interesting about so many of the holiday kinds of things, right? So many of them, you can make them into a total sweet as a dessert or something like that. But you can also make them into these savory kind of moments that other people who don't necessarily like sweets as much will go, wait a minute, that's really good.
I often stuff zucchini, like some people stuff peppers.
Yeah.
Um, I stuff zucchini, but I don't know why you couldn't stuff a pie pumpkin or
Yeah.
even cut it up and then layer it. I'm gonna have to give that a try. Gosh, we might be onto something there.
Well, and I can tell you some of the squash and things that I've had when I'm in places like Japan, they have some great ones that they'll do that way. And so I'm always looking for some of those to come back again when I'm in the US. I never know when I'm going to find one. So kind of look around to see if I can find something similar.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know you said you were trying to make sure people have an opportunity to learn about the farm because you are in a really rural area. We didn't really mention it, but your family's in other parts of agriculture too. So you bring a lot of agriculture to the pumpkin patch, right?
That's right. We're very much involved in the seed industry. So that's why I'm such an advocate for people who come, especially those on field trips, to learn where the pumpkin comes from. I want them to know that it starts with a seed, and then we'll actually walk out into the pumpkin patch and show the different parts of a life cycle. So some people may not know that the blossom is where the little baby pumpkin forms. So we can see the seed, then we can see the blossom, then you can see the little baby pumpkin start to grow, and then we'll see it when the pumpkin's a little bit bigger. It starts out green, and then it turns orange, and then we know it's ripe and
Yeah.
mature. So for me, that's really a fun way for people to learn where their food literally comes from. Also, my husband and I own a seed company, and so we sell corn, soybeans, alfalfa, and cover crops across 6 states in the upper Midwest. So this pumpkin patch is definitely one of my passions. It's kind of it's literally my little hobby farm, but my day job is doing marketing for Latham High Tech Seeds.
Yeah, yeah, which is how I got to know you. It wasn't through the pumpkin patch back in my days of the seed business. It's funny, I actually had a chance here a couple of weeks ago to talk about seed with a bunch of gardeners, right? So people who are new to gardening or people who are a little more established, for a lot of people, they look at a seed catalog or they look at the seed rack in their local nurseries or whatever. They necessarily haven't seen the full pumpkin catalog.
Right, right. Because who knew there was just a pumpkin catalog, right?
I didn't. It makes sense to me, but I've never thought about it, even though I've been working with farmers for so long. Hey, everybody, we're back now. We're going to catch up with Shannon. You've heard the interview we did in 2020. All I removed really was the things you were doing around COVID. I hope last year was a good year back, but then this year sounds like a grand year at Enchanted Acres.
Yes, this year there is so much excitement. We've had our best pumpkin crop ever, I believe. We've also had our best crowds ever. And I think a lot of that is just people trying to get one last visit into Enchanted Acres.
Yeah. So now you've said this is going to be your final season. It's been a generational family thing to do this every year. And this is your final season?
Yeah, this is our final season. We started in 2012. And when I started in 2012, I knew that I was committed to at least 10 years. So I guess I kept saying, last year was going to be my last year. And then I wasn't ready. And then my brother's like, sure, this is going to be your last year. We've heard that before, but I made it Facebook official. So this is it.
I love it. I know since it's been a family affair, you're working multiple jobs, your brother's working in multiple places, and your parents are the ones that actually did a lot of this work too. So it sounds like it's time for you guys to take a break.
Yeah, I think it's time for what's next, right? And the other thing that's changed too, when I started this, my kids were 10. And so now they're in college and they're, spreading their own wings, which is what we've raised them to do. And the last thing I want them to do is feel guilty for not coming home from college or thinking that they can't pursue their dream job because we need their help at home. So, but with that said, my daughter, she has come home every weekend since she's been in college, which is great because we definitely need her help. So I'm glad that she helps. So what she really enjoys doing is picking gourds of all things. I don't know why.
I love it. I was going to ask you about decorative gourds and things because they have become huge.
Yeah, so she loves picking and washing them, which is awesome because my least favorite job of any of them is washing things like gourds. So she loves doing that, but she also has just so much patience and she's really good with kids. So she helps them with the pumpkin painting. So at Enchanted Acres, we like to say, leave us with the mess and you take home the masterpiece. So people can paint and put glitter on their pumpkins and then just take home the finished product.
Exactly. So when we talked a couple of years ago, yellow pumpkins were just becoming a thing. I've seen some white ones and some other strange colors. Is there a new in thing this year?
That's a great question. And I did not look at the seed catalog this year to see what was new because you know how some women love shoes and, jeans and things like that. Like, I love looking at that pumpkin seed catalog. There were times when I planted over 20 varieties. And so this year I didn't even open it up. I just planted our tried and true. I mean, the name of our pumpkin patch is Enchanted Acres. So our Cinderella pumpkins are our signature pumpkins. So of course we had to plant a lot of those. The yellow pumpkins are still really popular this year. I'm not sure what happened. In years past, I've had polar bear pumpkins, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if my seeds didn't come in or what, but we didn't have any big polar bear pumpkins this year. I was disappointed when I went out to pick and there weren't any out there.
Well, you mentioned the Cinderella pumpkins, and on Facebook, I saw a picture of your place, and it was like a Cinderella carriage lit up at night. It is amazingly beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Are
Yes.
you actually doing nighttime activities, or is that just a little something?
It's just to have some wonder at night. There is literally a tree that lights up. It looks like something from Disney, and it's in the middle of a field, in the middle of everywhere, let's say, right? Instead of saying in the middle of nowhere. But people are driving like 50 miles to see that tree during Christmas time. So I hope our big giant pumpkin is one of those things that people want to drive past, because we're literally just 2 miles off Interstate 35. And if I had little kids, I would definitely drive them by at night and tell them it's the Great Pumpkin. And then I'd probably read It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, or make them watch the movie because I was that mom. Yeah. But it really is. And I've had people call me. Like, I had a friend who lives outside the area, and she's like, I had totally forgotten we'd be driving by your pumpkin patch. And I could not believe it when there was this big glowing pumpkin in the middle of the field. So that's been fun. It's fun to hear you bring a little bit of enjoyment into someone's day.
I love it. We talked a lot of recipes when we talked 2 years ago, because you and I both love food so much.
Exactly.
And I suddenly was wanting pumpkin muffins because we had talked too much about them.
But speaking of all things pumpkin, so we put our pie pumpkins on special today for this weekend, I should say. And that made me think about all my favorite pumpkin recipes. And then I thought, oh, I wonder what the Pioneer Woman has to say about this. So I shared a few links to some of her favorite pumpkin recipes. So now there's even more that I want to try.
You have just a couple of weeks left, right?
We used to stay open through Halloween, but turns out most people have their pumpkins by Halloween. So go figure. So so just a couple of weekends left. It's bittersweet. I'll tell you, it has been so much fun. One of the families came to visit me last weekend that have literally been there every year. So they had moved to the area when their daughter was little, was just, real little. And so last year she came back and she led story time, which was really fun. And then this year they just came back to wish us well. And it has been just, I can't even find the words to describe what it means to be part of somebody's family traditions and literally watch their kids grow up during the last 11 seasons.
Well, I think this is an opportunity for somebody else in that Sheffield area to take on this great role in your community there.
I do think, Janice, we'll see somebody in this area. You know, we really live in the heart of rural America right here. In Iowa, and especially in North Iowa here, I really do believe we'll see another pumpkin patch or two crop up.
Well, I know here in St. Louis, we have several around. Also, apple picking is still a big thing. There's still plenty of apples going on. So I'd encourage people to do that. You've only got a little time, and then it's
and the
Halloween.
Leaves. Yes, and the leaves have been particularly lovely. So our family has an exchange student this year. And when your host parents run a pumpkin patch, you obviously don't go anywhere on the weekends. So they had school off on Columbus Day, I believe it was. And so we took her to Wisconsin apple orchards and just had a blast.
Oh, fantastic.
The leaves were beautiful. But I love food, but I also believe food's a destination. So we made sure that apple cider donuts were on the list for Monday. And then also I love a good burger. So I was scouting out best burgers in the area. I have been known to plan trips around the best burgers. And I've been known to break for cheese curds. So, yeah, so many reasons to get out and travel.
Well, I've got big food plans almost all the time. There's always a food destination on the horizon. So thanks so much. I'm going to eventually get to your farm, but I guess I won't get to Enchanted Acres. I'll just see the rest of your farm.
Acres isn't going away. Just the pumpkin patch party.
Okay.
So
great.
yeah, so you can still come. And so people are asking me what's next. Wedding venues are a really big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's probably what the next array is going to be. It's Enchanted Acres upstairs is really cute. I think that'd be a great place for not only the wedding party to get ready, but even to host a wedding shower. I've hosted bridal showers and baby showers up there. It's a great place for a family reunion. Yeah.
You've just got to figure it out after you get all those pumpkins in and you enjoy the rest of your holiday season. You can think about that after the new year comes, maybe.
Well, I was thinking I might need to do it beforehand because there's probably a lot of wedding rings that are going to happen between Christmas and New Year.
You may be right.
I know. That's what I was like. I don't know that I can rest on my laurels for too long here. So
family gatherings over the holidays for the big families too, because it's been so nice to finally have crowds getting back together.
Yes, absolutely. I think I think it's going to look different, but I'm excited. It's time for the next chapter.
That sounds great, Shannon. Thanks so much for being here. Now let's remind people it's Enchanted Acres on Facebook, and they may need to make it when they look for Enchanted Acres, Iowa.
Correct.
So
yep.
Then they'll see the carriage kind of shape there for your logo.
Yes, and it's our website is Enchanted Acres IA, because apparently other states have Enchanted Acres as well. Who knew? So yes, enchantedacresia.com.
All right. That way people can see what's going on here as you guys close out your seasons. Thanks so much for getting on with me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest again. It's always fun to talk with you.